LSU beats Louisiana Tech. The Pro Football Focus grades are in. We're talking about them. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, LSU beats Louisiana Tech by the hardest. It certainly wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game that LSU will ever play. But the Tigers did, in fact, get a win. They moved to 2-0 on the season. And every week, Pro Football Focus puts out their grades for the game. And if you're new, shout out. Thank you for being here. If you're an everydayer, you know this, but I'll repeat it. Pro Football Focus, I always look at it as a metric. It's not the metric. It's just something to consider. And a lot of times it can confirm or disconfirm the eye test. More often than not, it proves what you see. But there's some really interesting nuggets today from this Louisiana Tech game that are, I think, going to be in stark contrast to what you and I think we saw on Saturday night, which is why it's fascinating sometimes to go through these to look at a more objective metric instead of what yours and my opinion may be. So we'll dive into this. We always start by going offense and then defense. I'll give you some big picture takeaways as well. So let's look at the offense to start. LSU against Louisiana Tech goes out there and has a sluggish performance, to say the very least. You scored 23 points in the game. You win 23-7. It's just not the type of day that any of us thought LSU was going to have. I picked LSU 45-7. I figured busted coverage somewhere along the way, La Tech would find a way into the end zone. I did not think LSU's offense would struggle the way that they did. And you had two significant injuries with Braylon Moore on the first offensive snap, and then obviously losing Trey'Dez Green later in the game. But Brian Kelly, after the game, sort of dismissed the idea of Braylon Moore, of the whole thing collapsing because of Braylon Moore's injury. He said he's 1 of 5 on the offensive line, but it was more so they got to coach better, they got to execute better. This probably won't be a great surprise, but the top graded player on the offense was Barion Brown. After the game, Brian Kelly said Barion Brown got the game ball, and why not? He was a stud in the game. Barion Brown was absolutely incredible. The phrase that Brian Kelly used was he, quote, balled out. Pro Football Focus charted that Brown converted 5 first downs on his 8 catches, 34 yards after the catch, and he forced a missed tackle. He did have a contested catch and was, quite honestly, pretty awesome. His overall grade was a 78. His grade of the passing game was a 75. His run blocking grade was a 77.6. So even when they asked him to get on the perimeter and block in the running game, Barion Brown was really good. And I love how physical a player Barion Brown is. And it shows up time and again. If you look at Brown's, run blocking in this game, a 77.6 on his run blocking, and he was asked to run block on 11 of his 42 snaps. So it's not a lion's share of the snaps, but still a guy that when you asked him to do something on the perimeter other than just run and catch the ball, he delivered. So Barion Brown was your highest rated offensive player, followed by Garrett Nussmeier. Now, that probably is going to surprise some people to see Nussmeier there, considering you watch the game. And this is where sometimes Pro Football Focus can confirm. Sometimes it'll disconfirm, what the eye test said. Well, the interception was not good, but PFF charted 4 drops by LSU receivers, something a lot of fans have brought up. And so when you have 4 drops, that bolsters the quarterback's grade. So even though Nussmeier, the statistics didn't pop, the 4 drops actually help him, because it's fair to ask, what would this game have been had those catches been made? The most obvious one is on the second possession. Beautiful ball from Nussmeier over the middle to Xavier Thomas. If he catches it, maybe LSU goes in and scores right there. But then, of course, there was the interception on the first possession where if Nussmeier makes a better throw, it's a touchdown. They also credited Nussmeier with 3 big-time throws in the ball game. Now, after Brown and Nussmeier, Aaron Anderson was next, then Harlem Berry, Tyree Adams, DJ Chester, Caden Durham, Paul Mabenga, Nick Anderson, Josh Thompson. That was your top 10. And the thing that's probably going to surprise a lot of you is how highly some of the offensive linemen were ranked, notably DJ Chester. So Tyree Adams was 5th overall offensively, and DJ Chester was 6th. Pro Football Focus gave DJ Chester an 82.5 in his pass blocking grade. This is the thing that I think is going to surprise most people when they see it. Chester's pass blocking grade was an 82.5. Mabenga, the left guard, was an 80.7. Thompson, the right guard, was an 88.8. So your 3 highest graded pass blockers were your center and your 2 guards. And I know you're going to roll your eyes at that, because a lot of people have had a lot of fun crushing those guys here over the last 24 hours or so. But what it does suggest is that the pressure for Nussmeier wasn't in his face. It was coming from the edge. And some of this will bear out. Now, Tyree Adams, playing left tackle, graded out at a 64.2. His pass block grade was a 69.7, which is not bad. But when you look at the bottom, go look at your bottom 5. Your lowest graded player offensively was Trey'Dez Green, then Bauer Sharp, then Bo Bordelon. And remember, Bordelon is in there really as a glorified tight end. I mean, he's a pass blocking tight end. He was in there for 7 snaps, 6 of them on run plays. So naturally, if you're asking your tight ends to help you in pass protection, and Trey'Dez Green was graded at 62, Bauer Sharp was 68. Bordelon did not have a grade in pass protection. But then next, if you're going from the bottom, Green, Sharp, Bordelon, Caleb Jackson was next, and then Weston Davis, your right tackle. Weston Davis did not have a great day. As a matter of fact, if you look offense or defense, Davis was your 4th lowest graded player on either side of the ball. He allowed 4 pressures, 3 hurries, and a sack on 48 pass blocking reps. Now, his run blocking grade was a 47. So this is the challenge right now, okay, is you can start to extrapolate from this where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. Through 2 games, the interior of your offensive line has been very good in pass protection. The pressures have come from the edge. That's one of the benefits of looking at Pro Football Focus. But as you look at the run game, the run blocking, it hasn't been good enough anywhere. But when you look at Davis through 2 games at right tackle, his run blocking grade is a 39. That's atrocious. Like, there's no other way to explain it. They just got to be better. Weston Davis has to be better, and your tight ends in run blocking have to be better as well. Trey'Dez's run blocking grade was a 40.3. Bauer Sharp was a 58.6. Bo Bordelon was a 49.2 in his run blocking grade. And as we mentioned, Davis was a 47. You've just got to be better on the outside. Even Tyree Adams, who is the 5th highest rated player overall offensively, his run blocking grade was a 59.5. This does start to tell the story a little bit of what is going wrong with LSU. The pass blocking grades are fine, just like they were a year ago. It's run blocking where LSU continues to have an issue. Now, you're going to say, well, Matt, how do they fix it? I don't know. I'm not the coach. I'm not there to practice every day. I don't know how they fix that. Is it scheme? Is it protections? Is it physicality? Is it commitment to the run? I don't know. Brian Kelly talked about playing against a 3-3-5 defense, which is a challenge. But by the time you've seen it in the first half, you get out there for the second half, you've seen it now. And you need to be better against it. And they weren't. The fact that Caden Durham was held under 40 rushing yards against Louisiana Tech is problematic. So I look at it two ways. I look at it as a week ago, in a much tougher environment against a much better team, they fared much better. My hope is that what we saw on Saturday was just a lethargic effort from a team that was disinterested. And then you lost Braylon Moore in the middle. But even after losing Braylon Moore, despite the fact that DJ Chester has been a convenient target for a lot of LSU fans, Chester was the 6th highest graded player overall offensively, and his pass blocking grade was outstanding. It was second only to Josh Thompson. So DJ Chester was not your problem on Saturday night in the run game. Whatever the problem was, this coaching staff has got to find it and fix it sooner than later. All right, we'll flip it over and talk about the defense as we continue. Locked on LSU, your team every day. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And the part finder tools and 3D schematics, they can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Join the free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel more like of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. I pulled up Game Time in just a couple of taps. I saw amazing deals. Talking about your favorite college football games as low as $25. Look, and I love the zone deals too. You can pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save big. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. I want to flip it over to the defensive side of the ball, but it is worth mentioning as well. I know as we were going from the bottom to the top with the offense, Trey'Dez Green, Bauer Sharp, Bo Bordelon, Caleb Jackson, Weston Davis, that was your bottom five. Next from the bottom were Chris Hilton and Kyle Parker. And sometimes you look and you wonder, okay, well, where is Chris Hilton? I've been asked that a lot. When Barion Brown is the highest graded player offensively and leads your team in receptions, and Brian Kelly said he balled out, and you can see the explosiveness, and he runs a 4.3, and you can see all of the things that make Barion Brown outstanding, all of the reasons why Mark Stoops should be fired at Kentucky for coaching malpractice for not figuring out a way to use that guy, you can understand why Chris Hilton just isn't seeing the opportunity. I think Chris is a really good, explosive college football player. He's shown that. He's shown the ability. I mean, he had touchdowns against Vandy, Oklahoma, Baylor, 3 consecutive games when we got healthy. Like, he is super capable. Barion Brown is just a better option right now. So how do they sort of intertwine those will be interesting to see. As we flip it over to the defensive side of the ball, the highest rated player on either side of the ball for LSU was Gabriel Reliford, sophomore defensive end. And I think this is so significant because LSU went into the transfer portal and added Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton, Jamari Butler, 3 veteran defensive ends to push Gabe Reliford and to provide depth and all that sort of stuff. And the fact that Gabe Reliford, with all of that competition, is still performing at this level is a great sign, because those three guys I mentioned, Pyburn, Peyton, Butler, they're all gone next year. And this is going to be Gabe Reliford's show. So this is a great opportunity for him to challenge himself, to see if he can stand up with these dudes that are 4th, 5th, and 6th year players. Pyburn's in his 4th year. Peyton's in his 5th year. Reliford's in his 6th year. Butler's in his 6th year. So you have a young guy, a true sophomore, who is the highest graded player, not just on defense, but of the entire team in this ballgame, with an 84.4. His run defense was a 70. His tackling was a 78. His pass rush was an 83. He even dropped in coverage and had a 60 in his coverage grades. I'd rather not see Gabe Reliford there. But you're talking about a guy who in 27 snaps played 10 times against the run. He had 16 pass rushes and then dropped in coverage on one play. So 16 times he rushed the passer and had an 83.3 pass rush grade. He had a hurry, 2 quarterback hits, and he was a 70.2 against the run. So the point being, this is a guy who saw his playing time threatened by veteran players coming in who have been outstanding, and he has elevated his game, which is great to see. So Reliford was the highest graded defender, followed by Mansour Delane. What else is new? And then Ahmad Breaux was number 3. Now, we know about Delane. He's LSU's best cover guy. He was an 81.7 in coverage. He was targeted 4 times, allowed 1 catch. What we're going to start to see as we go through the season is teams are going to ignore Mansour Delane and try to the other side of the field, like we saw with Derek Stingley and like we've seen with Patrick Peterson. When Peterson and Claiborne were both on the team together, and Claiborne was the one with all the picks because teams were throwing away from Peterson's side of the field. A year ago, Ashton Stamps led the SEC in pass breakups because teams were not throwing at Zy Alexander. They were going to the other side of the field. So Mansour Delane has been awesome. I mean, he has shown through 2 weeks he can be a lockdown cover corner, which LSU hasn't really had since Derek Stingley. I think Elias Ricks was fantastic as a 5-star. We just didn't get to see him blossom at LSU before he transferred. But Mansour Delane is showing why he's a true, legit number 1 cornerback. And then Ahmad Breaux was the 3rd highest rated defender. So again, you're talking about Reliford and Breaux, 2 sophomore defensive linemen who are seeing their playing time diminished because LSU went in the portal and brought in veteran talented players. But this is also an illustration of the depth LSU has. So Breaux played just 20 snaps, but in 20 snaps, half of those, 10 were pass rush reps, and he was credited with 2 hurries. So you're talking, and by the way, in 10 run defense snaps, he made 3 tackles, including a half a TFL. So the point is, he's only out there for 20 snaps, and LSU played 56 defensive snaps. So Ahmad Breaux was out there for 20 of the 56 defensive snaps, but he maximized those 20 snaps. That's the benefit of depth. When you can start veteran players like on the interior, Jacobian Guillory started, and I'm looking for the other tackle that started. Forgive me. It was Dom McKinley. So Guillory and Dom McKinley got the starts. So you can play Guillory and McKinley. And by the way, McKinley was the 5th highest rated player. So again, Reliford, Delane, Breaux, Michael Turner was 4. He only played 3 snaps. But then Dom McKinley. So of your top 5 highest rated defenders, 3 were sophomore defensive linemen. It is an incredible illustration of the depth on this team, in particular on that defensive line, because you can start Breaux and McKinley, or Guillory and McKinley, or Bernard Gooden and Ahmad Breaux, or Gooden and Guillory, or whatever combo you want is the point. But because all of these guys are going to play, and whenever you can rotate and not see a drop off. So for example, just looking at the tackles, Breaux played 20 snaps. McKinley played 23 snaps. Buddy Mathis played 14 snaps, the freshman second consecutive week that he played. Brandon Brown got in the game as well for 10 snaps. That was late in the game. But Sean Washington played 3. But if you're looking at Bernard Gooden, who played 27, and then Guillory played 15. So Guillory played 15. Gooden played 27. Breaux played 20. And McKinley played 23. The point is, you're rotating all these guys and you're not seeing a drop-off, which is outstanding because you're going to need all of those guys as you move throughout the season. As you look at the bottom 5 defensively, it's a bit of a mixed bag because LSU did get up and they played a lot of guys. So, for example, Javen Toviano was the lowest graded defender. Kalaj Cobbins played only 3 snaps. He was second from the bottom. Jacobian Guillory and Jordan Gilbert were next, and they both started. By the way, Jordan Gilbert started this game at free safety. Jordan Gilbert and AJ Halsey were your starting safeties. Tamarcus Cooley did not start in this game. He did. So they forgive me. They started with a 3 safety look. They started with Halsey, Cooley, and Jordan Gilbert. So they started with a 3 safety look. Wow. So officially, but they were all listed as starters in this ballgame. But Gilbert played only 21 snaps. Then Jakeem Jackson was next. He played only 2 snaps. So the point being, like, I don't know what to make of Cobbins playing 3 snaps and Jakeem Jackson playing 2 snaps and being low rated. Guillory and Gilbert being starters and being down near the bottom with grades in the low mid 50s is a bit of concern. And that's probably why you saw guys like Breaux and McKinley play more snaps in this game. So just a quick look at the offense and defense in the game against Louisiana Tech. I'll step aside. We'll grab our last break, come back with one final thought here as we wrap up Locked On LSU, your team every day. Quick question for all the college football fans. If you could go back in time, sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. As a matter of fact, it was the game. And I have the pictures to prove it. These aren't just hats. It's the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price they did back then. When you use the code Locked On, one word, Locked On, you'll get your vintage hat for just $16.99. So head to thegamecaps.com. That's thegamecaps.com. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount. Oh, by the way, they've got the gold ones too. So head to thegamecaps.com because legends wear the game. All right. We're going to put a button here on today's episode of Locked On LSU as I scroll through the Pro Football Focus grades. What was interesting also, a week ago, Bernard Gooden was a starter and was one of your highest graded defenders. He was down near the bottom in this game, which is a 58. As a matter of fact, his tackling grade is what dinged him with a 27.8. He was credited with just 1 tackle in the ball game. He was also credited with a hurry, with just 1 hurry. Jack Pyburn was just 1 spot ahead of Gooden. Perkins was just 1 spot ahead of Pyburn. So interestingly, Perkins did not start the game. So as I mentioned, they started with a 3 safety look that did not include Harold Perkins. It was just one of those days where sometimes you look at those, the grades, and you could see who the standouts were in certain situations and maybe who struggled a little bit. The other guys offensively that I think are maybe worth noting after the top 5 and the bottom 5 that we talked about, Karius Kern did play 1 snap in the game. I would love to see him get more reps. But how about Paul Mabinga? I know we talked about it a smidge, but, you know, I know this team is having issues in the run block, in the running game altogether, and they've got to sort that out before they play Florida this week. And Caleb Banks from Florida is likely going to be back for this game, and he's a giant and a monster, and he caused all kinds of problems for LSU a year ago. But it's one of those where the the most convenient conversation among fans is to criticize the line. And I'm not saying they're flawless and without deserving of criticism. But I think also similarly, when they do well, they have to be praised. Like, we can identify multiple things being true at the same time. The interior of the offensive line for 2 consecutive weeks has graded out outstanding, which tells you in pass protection, which tells you pressure is coming from the edge, which they've got to be able to sort that out. Means your tackles have to play better, and they've got to get help from the tight ends and the backs when they ask them to block. In the running game, how can they start to generate more of a push? Is that better scheme? Is it better energy, focus, attention, all that sort of stuff? Brian Kelly said after the game that it was a combination of everything. It's the line, it's the coaching, it's being in the right run fits, it's the backs. But it's a different kind of challenge this week. And I would imagine with Florida coming in, especially motivated after the loss against South Florida, Brian Kelly's not going to have any trouble getting his team's attention this week. And we will be counting you down to LSU and Florida all throughout the week right here on Locked On LSU, where we have another big moment for Locked On. College football fans, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation along 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. Hey, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And be sure to let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.